Hello there, my name is Martin Henley. This is the Effective Marketing YouTube channel. And if you've spent a second here, you will know that I'm on a mission to give you, through this channel, everything you need to be successful in your business. Now, I think what you need to be successful in your business is to be really, really good at sales and marketing. So not only am I here giving you everything I know about sales and marketing, I'm also pulling in anyone I can find with experience of sales and marketing to extract from them what they have that might be valuable for you. I think this is episode 52 of Talk Marketing. Now, today's guest is a digital media graduate. He has marketing experience going back to 2011. Now, you'll tell me, Martin, that doesn't sound very much. We've had people with 50 years experience. Why are you bringing us somebody with 11 years of experience? Well, we will find out. In 2011, he founded a business called Fruitful Digital. So he was kind of entrepreneurial at that point. He then worked for other people for 3 years, engaged in paid social, paid advertising, paid digital type stuff, before he founded his next business, Circulate Digital, in 2014. He is a joint host of the podcast, The Daily Hustle, which you will find on Spotify. He was recommended to us by Martin Hayman, who tells me that he and his brother have really scaled their business. This is Circulate Digital. He tells us that he is really impressed with what they have achieved already, and he will bring great value to this chat. So absolutely no pressure. Today's guest is Matt Daly. Hello, Matt.
Hello, how's it going? You're right.
I'm really good, thanks, man. How are you?
Yeah, really good. Amazing to be on the show, and a great recommendation from Martin as well. So thanks for having me.
You are very welcome. Okay, so it's me. So let's be here. So, and that's the wrong camera again. After I told you, and that's wrong. That's right. So, yeah, great recommendation from Martin. Had a really cool chat with Martin. So I think that will go up. He obviously is the SEO guy. That will go up in 2 or 3 weeks, I think. I'm running about 4 weeks in advance, and I spoke to him a couple of weeks ago. So we turned this chat around really quickly. It took me, I'm not even joking, about 7 months to get hold of Martin.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah,
He is a
really.
hard man to get hold of.
He is
He's a
quite
busy man.
hard. He's
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 not
got a
fighting in the ring.
yes. Is he still fighting? I didn't know he
I
was
don't
still.
know if he's still fighting in the ring, but
Yeah,
he
yeah.
used to do a lot of
He
that.
used to do a lot of that, and he's got like 6 things that he's running with. So, yes, but did get hold of him. Did have a great chat. He did recommend you. Can't say nice enough things about Martin, to be honest.
No, he's a super cool guy, and actually, it was really good to work with him back in the days of site visibility. Taught a lot, and he was a great leader as well. I really recommend, if you're looking for support with that kind of thing as well with SEO, they're a great guy kind of guy to work with. He's really passionate about it, loves it.
Cool. And I got that sense of him. And there's not many SEO people that I would recommend. I find SEO people to be, because it's like the deepest, darkest art of,
It is.
do you know what I mean? So what I think they do is they take your money and then they do I want to swear already? Fuck all. They do fuck all. Lots of SEO agencies, but that's not the sense I get from Martin at all. So you're very young, aren't you, Matt Daly?
Well, I'm 32. Yeah, I don't know if you'd say I'm very young, but I guess in the grand scheme of things, I'm still early into the career.
You're
I've not
still,
I've not been around like Martin for a lot longer than that in the marketing game. But
yeah.
what I have done is I've kind of been very passionate about learning, and I think
Okay.
that's been really helpful. I think like when I first started out in digital, I was very curious, and I just wanted to understand digital marketing. I went and
Okay.
did this placement year, and that was really the start of it when I worked at AcuCheck, which is a diabetes care kind of brand. And
Okay.
my first introduction into an agency was iCrossing. So I then went and worked at iCrossing
Okay.
after my first business, which I'm actually quite impressed you found, because that was a pretty big fuck up, if I must say so.
Okay.
But
So
it
we
was
are
one of
swearing
those.
then.
Oh, we're allowed to, are we?
Oh, I don't care.
We'll see. So the Fruitful Digital was an interesting one because Danny and I actually set that up together, and the learnings we found on that business itself were huge. Number one, we learned how to basically fail and get our own accountant next time, because we spent a lot of the time trying to deal with receipts. We're students, we're like 21 years old, and we're like
Right.
going out partying. Like, we were just spending stuff on our business cards and not even thinking about it. And like, in that year, I think we must have made like 8 or 9 grand, something like that. So it's like having a part-time job. But
Yeah.
then it was years after where we really saw, oh God, we need to put this thing into the ground, because it's really screwing us up now. But that's when I went and started working in agencies, and it was my
Okay.
first.
Cool. So that's
Yeah,
almost straight out. Because so as a student, you were running your own business, your own agency,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
straight
yeah,
into agencies. Okay. Cool. So I was
yeah,
34 when I started my first business. So
yeah.
you are essentially 9 years ahead of me. I completely caved after 9 years. So you're doing better than I did. Um, it's not caved. I just changed. I stopped being an agency. I started working on much more delivering the training. I'm a lecturer with the Digital Marketing
Yeah.
Institute. After 9 years, I'd had enough. Let's put it that way. Um, okay, good. So you are 32. You've been running your business now for 7 years already.
Yeah, coming up
Um,
to 8 in
Coming up
November.
to 8.
Yeah,
Okay,
thanks.
and you have scaled the business, and you are based now in Barcelona. Now, this is what I used to tell people when I was running my business, that I was going to run away to Barcelona, but I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't. So
It's a
it
great
sounds
place.
like it's going fantastically well.
Yeah, it's going great. I mean, there's there's good times and there's bad times. Like running an agency, and actually, the more I speak to other agency owners, I realize it's very normal. It's just like ups and downs, peaks and troughs the whole way through. Like, for me to sit here and say, "Oh, it's just been one kind of linear bit of growth," would be an absolute lie, because it's not. It's been really difficult, and
Yes.
there's times where things are going great. Like last year, for example, like we really grew to the last quarter of last year, and then January this year, boom, budget got cut. One of our biggest clients, one of the biggest brands, said they can't work with us anymore. So now we're on the mission to basically replace that capacity. And it's these types of challenges which really, really impact you emotionally, mentally.
Okay.
When you've got big challenges going on in your personal life already, like, I think one of the biggest and most difficult parts about the pandemic was actually when I lost my mum. And it was a good thing and a bad thing, really, because it was a good thing in a way. It taught me a lot, and a bad thing because you can't kind of get your mum back. But like, if I go on to the good thing, we learned a lot more about mental health.
Okay.
This is what has steered our business, and actually developing a good company culture. Um,
Brilliant.
again,
Okay, so I know this is kind of what you're interested to talk about, and I'm really interested to hear about it. And um, can we go to the format? Because the format kind of works, and
yeah,
then
yeah, go for it.
I'll keep my mental health throughout this conversation, so that'll be good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So, as you know, there's only 5 questions.
yeah.
So, the first question is how you qualified to talk to us about your specialist subject. Your specialist subject is clearly running a digital agency.
Okay, yeah,
The second question is who do you work with? How do you add value to their lives? The third
yeah,
question is what is your recommendation either for anyone who wants to do better running their own digital marketing agency or
yeah.
anyone who is using a digital marketing agency? Fourth question, really easy, what should people read? Fifth question is who can you throw under the bus? I know you've got a couple of gems lined up for us. So the first
Yeah,
question
yeah,
is then how are you qualified to talk to us about running a digital marketing agency? And especially then, I'm interested in this idea of company culture, because company culture is probably one of the things that I struggle with. But firstly, how are you qualified to talk to us about running a digital marketing agency?
fantastic. So I think, in terms of my qualification behind running a digital agency, obviously I've almost been running my agency now for 8 years, and it's been a really exciting time, and it's been full of ups and downs. But I think what we've learned over those years is really about how to do it effectively, and an agency is all about people. So it's really about how do you engage with those people in the right way to, get the best results. I'm a big believer that, the people that you have in your business, the happier they are, the better the results are going to be. So I think, like, we've got like some of the best results. We actually won the best digital campaign of 2021 in the MPAs last year. And like, I think our company culture as well has been something which has really stuck out and actually gets talked about a lot when we're kind of talking to people, because it's something we're really passionate about. So I think in terms of like, why am I qualified? I think it's because we've ticked a lot of boxes, but also we've gone beyond just ticking boxes as well. We really care about that.
Okay, super cool. So how there are two offices, am I right? Is there one in Manchester and one in Barcelona? How many people are involved in the agency?
Well, actually, we've got 3 offices, but the one out here is kind of remote. We've got I'm out in Barcelona, and then we've got a team over in Sheffield, which is a bit smaller now. It's our content marketing team, and then you've got our technical kind of paid delivery team over in Manchester. So we've got Barcelona, Sheffield, and Manchester. The way our business actually works, we have
You've got
technical
a what?
delivery.
A load in
What's that? Sorry,
You've got a what load in Sheffield and Manchester?
a technical delivery team and a
No,
creative
did you say a
marketing.
bus load?
A bus load. No. No, I wish we had a bus load. That'd be fun.
Okay.
No, no, we've got so in our Sheffield team, we've got a small content marketing team, and that's
Okay.
where my brother and co-founder are positioned. And over in Manchester, we've got a technical delivery team,
Okay.
and they basically make sure that our digital ads are really, really working efficiently and driving the best results. So it's really
O-
important they work together.
Okay. So the agency is paid social. Is that what the agency is? Or is it
We're a
broader than that?
We're a digital ads agency. Our primary focus is digital ads. So we focus more so on Facebook ads, Instagram ads, Spotify ads, Amazon ads, Google ads, obviously. And then it's got the content marketing spin, which comes into it as well, which kind of highlights a bit around SEO
Okay.
and content.
Okay, cool. Right. So this thing about culture
Yeah,
is really important. And I was really interested in, and I just never got it right. What I've
yeah,
realized since is that I just got it completely wrong. You need two people at least to run a business, or you need to be good at two. You can tell me if I'm right or if I'm wrong. You need somebody, I think, who is customer facing, who's going to win the business, and then you need someone who's very focused on delivering the business.
mm,
And so, if there are two founders, I think the ideal is that you've got one in each of those camps. And if you're both in one of those camps, then you need to very quickly get to somebody to operate the other part of the business. And I never had that because it was just me. And I was always looking for somebody who could do the delivery. And it was a special kind of torture. I couldn't find anyone to do that. So it's your brother. Your brother's name is
yeah. Danny.
Danny. Okay. So
Yeah.
it's you and your brother. So are you one of you customer facing and one of you delivery facing? Is that how does that relationship work?
So Danny is more operations focused. So he is looking at how the business ticks over underneath all the stuff that we do.
Right.
He's also very well, he used to be a developer and designer, so he's a bit of a coding person. So he can make sure that we've got our site looking great and we're pushing up the rankings for keywords that we're trying to go for. My side is very much like you said on the sales and marketing side. So I've got like a lot of experience within digital to guide our team,
Yep.
but also I'm a front-facing person when it comes to new business and developing relationships with clients. So
Yes.
you've got to have those two. You've got to have two, and so I'm kind of picking up the part of the delivery part, but also customer focus part.
Yep.
And then you've got Danny, which is very operational. He manages the financials and all this kind of stuff in the back end.
And the work actually happening. Okay, so
Yeah.
that's perfect because I never had that, and I couldn't find anyone. I did it for 9 years. I couldn't find anyone. Like, I
Oh,
obviously tried different people. It's really hard. So I think there's a special dynamic to being brothers. Is there? Is that something that's important to you?
I think being in business with your brother is very different because you can kind of get away with saying a lot more. You got to
Okay.
there's certain things that you can basically say in a different way that if it was like an employee or just another colleague in that sense, then you wouldn't be able to get away with that. Like some of the phone calls Danny and I have, like we can have a big argument and then we're back on the same page and it's good to go. But that's because we're brothers. So it holds a very different dynamic because we're not always going to agree. I've got very different values to what Danny has, and it's about coming together. And sometimes we're not going to agree on certain things, and we're going to have to find a way and a solution to actually agree. It's a challenge, honestly. Like, but it's also very positive because I mean, it's a lot of people's dreams just to do something very special like that with their sibling. And I think we're very lucky to be in that
Yes.
position.
And I think there's something about, because it was my business, so I was on my own. So
Yeah,
I had like that business owner energy, but nobody else did. Everyone else was just working. So if you've got twice that business owner energy, then that has to be good. Do you know what I mean? And I suppose the thing about partnerships, whether it's a sibling or otherwise, is there has to be some compromise. Yeah. So sorry, this might just turn into a counselling session for why my business was so hard for 9 years. But it was like, it is like that. Do you know what I mean? That owner energy. Like, because I
yeah,
was really interested in, because I was the world's worst employee. So I was really interested in this idea of culture. And the way it started is I came from sales. So I started almost like a sales consultancy. But it was really about how you would canvas in your business, how you do marketing if you were, how you do marketing if you're a one person in your business. And then
yeah,
that went into like telemarketing, and then that led us into email marketing, and then websites, and then PPC came along, and then social came along, and then so that's how we became a digital agency. There should be a question for you. So in my business, it was me trying to drive this culture. Like I thought I was the baby Jesus when I started my business. I thought I wanted to like give people these amazing skills so they could go off and make hundreds of thousands of pounds working at HP or something. You've gone a little bit fuzzy again, man. Are you still hearing me?
yeah. It's really weird. Um, did we lose all the audio?
No, I think it was good. I was talking. I was saying I felt like the baby Jesus. You didn't laugh. That's why. That's how I knew then that you'd gone.
I'm so sorry. I don't know what's going on with the internet here. It's just
Yeah.
I think it's just kicked me off my hotspot. Bollocks. Um,
Okay. You're looking
what should
quite
we do
clear.
here?
Let's soldier on, man.
Looking at
Because
yeah, 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 cool.
yeah, if it goes too bad, I will just put up a picture, and
Yeah,
I
okay,
think
cool.
people listen to it rather than watch it anyway. So what I was
Yeah,
saying
cool.
is, the issue in my business, it was only me. I wanted to drive this culture, and I felt like the baby Jesus because I wanted to give people these skills so they could go off and work for HP or something and earn hundreds of thousands of pounds. But they didn't give a shit about that. Do you know what I mean? They wanted to come in and do as little work as possible and leave as early as
Yeah.
possible. And that was kind of their investment. So I'm really interested to hear about this idea of culture. What is the culture in your business? What characterizes the culture of your business?
It's really funny. Like I think like our values have always been driven around caring. Like so, especially more so in the last couple of years, we've really honed in on really providing care for our staff. And that doesn't just start with, putting the tick boxes in, like, for example, like office perks, like having a pool table, this kind of stuff. It's about providing the team with a place where they feel safe, comfortable to talk, and actually open and honest with each other. And I think it's that transparency that's really helped us in creating a company culture, which doesn't happen overnight. It's taken like 2 years to get to this point, where we've really, really focused on it. And what we do now is we use data to provide us with that clear direction to how we can make it better. So we use anonymous data that the staff provide us to basically help us create a better working environment. So you're listening to what your staff are saying, and you're actually making impact off the back of that.
Okay, so that's interesting. So, firstly, I think lots of marketing companies, especially, what get carried away or get distracted by the environment. They want the coolest offices, they want the pool tables
Yeah,
and the spiral staircases or the spiral slides or the fireman's pole or the, do you know what I mean, or the bean bags everywhere. They want that. And I mean, that's nice, it looks nice if you're inviting in
cool.
customers and stuff, but I don't know what it really contributes to the value that you should be adding to your customers' lives. And then the other thing, when anyone says, "Oh, we use data," it sounds like you are snooping on them. It sounds like you'll want to be Mark Zuckerberg. So you're going to have to clear up that little mess, man.
Yeah, so we use a tool called Office Vibe, and Office Vibe actually asks specific questions around how they rate things like satisfaction, happiness. Do they feel like they're getting enough participation in actually where the company's going? All of these different things that go beyond just office perks of having a great office. So it's for us, it's about getting that anonymous data. And we don't know who says this, by the way. So we have obviously all of this feedback coming in every week, and then we get a benchmark score. So like with everything, like when you're looking at quality score in Google Ads or relevant score in Facebook, you're trying to improve that score. So we now have a benchmark and we want to get to the next level. So it's about what kind of things can we do and change in the business to make that better. So it's scored out of 10 as well, by the way, which is quite good.
Yes. Okay. And do they have to complete this every week, or do they? This is like if they've got something they want to say, this is the channel that they can say it.
They don't have to, but I think our team do because we have like a pretty good, strong participation rate. I think it's about 83% of the people in our business take part in the survey. Um, and that's every week kind of thing. Sometimes people are obviously on holiday, what have you, like they don't take part. But I'm very open with our team about pushing them to take part because it's how we improve things. And I think
Yes.
that like that type of leadership is really important if you want to create a good company culture.
Yeah, I think 100%. And I think that is actually what makes the difference. The thing is, it's like pitching a client. It doesn't matter what you say is going to be good for them, it's what they feel is going to be good for them. Do you know what I mean? What they're prepared
Yeah,
to invest in. So it
yeah.
sounds, it's, yeah.
Have you heard of this type of way of doing it before?
No, I've heard of, I don't know why I'm thinking about this. I haven't heard of this before, no. But yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. It kind of occurs to me. I met some people. I met some digital nomads at one
Yeah.
point. I knew quite a few digital nomads, and some of the Eastern Europeans were working for companies where they were tracking like their keystrokes and things like this. So
God.
they were working online and they were like literally tracking the number of keystrokes per minute or per hour. And then the guy I met, his job was to supervise all that and to make sure that it was enough. They were tracking his keystrokes and his interactions. Do you know what I mean? So clearly very different. Yours is a much more subjective. How are you feeling? How can we make you feel happier? Theirs is a how can we make sure we're getting every gram of every calorie of energy out of you every hour. How many people do you actually employ?
There's 11 of us at the moment.
There's 11 of you. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So because that becomes a question. So like at what point can you implement something like this? Do you know what I mean? Is it like if there's two of you, it doesn't really make sense. So does it make sense at four people or six people or seven people or more than 10 people? Apparently, the real difference in culture comes at 15 employees. That's when it really changes. The dynamic
Yeah.
changes.
Yeah, I think like for us, for example, like I feel it's a really good kind of way of understanding because we are a small kind of team. We're not like hundreds of people.
Yes.
But I think like you definitely notice trends. Like if you've got 10 people in your team, you're going to spot trends of when they're happy and not happy. And it's like, I think that's a good size to be able to measure this effectively.
Yes.
Even if you've got 5 people, I mean, it's about anonymous feedback. So you don't know who's saying this anyway. So it's it's about providing that platform where people that don't necessarily feel confident to speak out, have that platform to speak out. And I think this
Yes.
is really important for developing a good company culture.
Can you respond to that person directly? So if somebody makes
Yeah.
a comment and you're like, actually, this isn't a company thing, this is a personality thing, or this is a seasonal thing, or this is something to do with them personally, you can respond to that person, that comment directly, and it will go straight back to that person.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
thing
you can,
is,
yeah.
the thing is, I think there's two ways to manage people effectively, and about a million ways to manage people completely ineffectively. And I'm the worst person to give. Well, not the worst person to give this news, but what I found, what was really difficult, well, when I went into management in my career, what I realized is what a manager does in a business is it protects the management from the team, and it protects the team from the management. And you're kind of busy doing that all of the time. But the culture is set. Like, people know that they have to turn up on time. They know what their holidays are. They know how they're supposed to speak to people. They know that they're not supposed to steal, all of this sort of stuff. But when you start a business from scratch, it's almost like you have to establish all of that stuff. The most basic stuff you have to establish. Um, how did I get on that? The two ways to manage people effectively are either you scare the living shit out of them all day, every day. So that would be an Alex Ferguson type manager for me. Or you get them loving and invested in their work. And those are the only two ways. And I would argue that scaring the shit out of them all day, every day isn't effective, because as soon as you're
Yeah.
not there, they down tools like Manchester United did when Sir Alex Ferguson left. And they've never recovered. Don't know if you're a football fan, but 100% I agree with, if people want to do the work and they respect you and they feel respected and they feel heard, that is the only way to get people performing productively, I think.
Yeah. I think you've got a good point. Like, we've actually worked in both ways. So when
Okay.
we first started out, we did have that more aggressive kind of shit needs to get done type kind of leadership. Um, and like I said, this is for us the last couple of years has been a transformation with that, and we've actually seen, like, we've got staff now that have been with us for 3 years, and whereas before our staff retention rate was not as great as that.
Yes.
So like, we're actually working towards, it's not something that happens overnight. It's like that consistency thing. It's going to
Yes.
take time to develop like a good company culture, because it's trust at the end of the day. It's you've got to gain that trust from the staff and show them that you care,
Yes.
and that comes from a very different type of leadership, I believe, anyway.
I think so. Yeah. The thing is, it takes a long time. Like, trust only develops over time.
Yeah,
So, but then it breaks. You can break it really quickly. Is the thing.
yeah,
I read the 1 Minute Manager. The difficulty I had was going from being a manager in a business where the role was defined and it wasn't your money. That was the major difference. Like, being the owner manager, I think, is really difficult, because when people screw up, it's costing you money. Do you know what I mean? Or if they don't do the work, it costs you money and reputation. And I think that's really difficult. I think that's really difficult. So I read the One
yeah.
Minute Manager. Have you read the 1 Minute Manager?
I've not actually, no. I've read
Okay.
quite a few different books, but not that one.
Okay, well done for reading a few different books.
Yeah,
What I can tell you, you don't need to read the 1 Minute Manager. Basically, what the 1 Minute Manager says is give people the opportunity to do things the way they want to do them, and then when you catch them doing it right, really celebrate the fact that they're doing it right. Do you know what I mean? That's kind of it.
yeah, yeah,
So basically, the 1 Minute Manager is be lovely to people, and
yeah,
that's the way I was until they upset me, and then they would leave in tears. It was really, really hard. It was really hard. So I think of all the people I employed, I must have employed 20 people in the 9 years. There was one that I was happy with when I stopped employing
yeah.
people. It's really hard employing people. It's really
It is.
hard. It
It
really
is
is.
super hard, because you've actually got to think, like, are they also going to be part of that culture? For us,
Yes.
it's not necessarily about the skill which can be learned. It's about what's their personality type. Is that going to be fitting within our culture? You see a lot of businesses are growing very quickly, and they probably can't maintain that culture that they had when they're like our size, for example, because they then become more. I need to hire this skill over personality, because when you're going into hiring, hundreds of people, like, that's not the bit of luck you really get in terms of having to pick and choose with a personality. I guess it's a tough one. I've not been in that situation, so I can't really say too much in terms of, like, when we're in a situation where we're hiring, like, hundreds of people. But I
Yes.
can only imagine it's very difficult at that point to maintain a good culture.
Yeah. And I didn't believe people when they said this was going to be the hardest bit, like employing people was going to be the hardest bit. But
Yeah.
because like getting customers is supposed to be the hardest bit, and then it's like everything is supposed to be the hardest bit. Like it's really hard running businesses. I just think the whole thing is hard now when I look back. Um, but the culture thing is really important because you really need buy-in. So this little function that you've found to get this anonymous feedback probably gives that. Do you not find that people are just having a shitty day and they're just going to dump on your progress?
Yeah, I mean, that can happen. Like we see fluctuations in scores, but that's also a good time to spot a trend. So every week, I think on Friday, I get a little message come up and it'll tell me what the feedback is for that week. And,
Right.
you know, if there's a big dip, a noticeable dip, then I'm pretty much going to our management team saying, what the hell's going on here? Like the happiness has dropped. And that has happened. And
Yes.
we come up with a solution. And it's a really, really interesting way. Like I'm massively into the data. So I like whenever it's like whether it's a digital marketing campaign, anything, I always make decisions based on data.
Right.
And that's why if we're going to build a company culture, we've got to understand the data behind it and actually have a benchmark in place to show that we're growing as well. Because this then allows me to kind of talk about it and inspire others around like, how we're doing it as a business so they can do it too. So it's about saying like it's about finding out like your benchmark and growing from there, I think. Like really identifying that.
Yes. Okay, good. So the thing is, I don't think your employees ever really believe that you are interested in how happy they are. I think I think that's the big thing that you have to overcome. Do you know what I mean? Whereas if you are collecting the data like this, and it is comments and it is grading, so it is like qualitative and quantitative, so it's like it is data.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's true. It's funny though, because like that thing I know like being the boss or whatever, like you're gonna feel like that. But actually I have such open and meaningful conversations with our team. And I think it's really lovely. Like I love it. Like I love just going out for a beer with some of them and we openly talk about like our culture and what we can do better. Like the other day they said, I think we should have stand-up meetings again once a month just to discuss things that we can improve. I think it's really open. Like we've got a
Yes.
very open bunch of people that want to have a better place to work.
Cool. And I think you're right. If you've done that, then you've done the work. Do you know what I mean? Then you've achieved something really important just in
Mm.
doing that. And then you can trust, like you say, it is trust. It is trust. It was torture for me.
Yeah.
Not even joking. It was absolute torture for me. I don't
Hard.
really want to. I don't really want to even tell you how awful. I'll tell you how. I'll tell you how I thought it was. Like we're a telemarketing agency, so
Yeah.
I thought at that time, this was like 2005. I thought all throughout my career, I'd never been recognised or rewarded until I made the sale and then I got the commission, But all of the work,
Yeah.
that's not the work. Like all of the work goes into before that. And actually, you might get 2 out of 10 sales. So you only get rewarded for 20% of your work. So I came up with
Yeah.
this whole thing for this telemarketing team that I've built where it's like, if you hit a certain number of calls, if you hit a certain amount of time on the phone, if you get a certain amount of information to people, if you identify a certain number, like all these things. And I had all these little systems to turn to like make sure that people were getting rewarded for what they were doing all day every day, and it was reflected in the way I was charging the customers. So it worked. Except what they would do is they would call fax machines all day to get their like number of calls up, and then what they would do
Mm.
to get their time on the phone up is they would just call their home number and leave it off the hook for an hour while they went for lunch, for example. Do you know what I mean? So I mean, I just
Yeah.
was employing the wrong people, but also, and I wasn't there to manage it because I was out always like with customers. So, and I never had anyone who was there to manage it. This isn't about counseling me, but this is like just maybe a salutary tale of how bad and difficult it can be. So, what does all of
Yeah.
this have to do with mental health, or how does this? Because the last 2 years have been mentally health wise challenging.
Yeah. So what's he got to do with it, basically?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think like it comes back to my own mental health really. Like I've always had, well, since running a business, I think a lot of business owners get what we call anxiety around, things that we can't control. And this really amplified when I lost my mum a couple of years ago. And that's something that I realized, like, if I'm experiencing these things, then, maybe the team are also experiencing these things. So like having that open communication with them around mental health. And actually, like in the last couple of months, we've had some of our team members, one of their parents has passed away, unfortunately, and like it's about supporting them through that process.
Yes.
We've just put in private healthcare for every staff member, and they get counselling. They get all sorts of different types of perks to support them with their mental health, because I believe we live in an age where it's very important to talk about it. I believe it's like fundamental to preventing people from doing terrible things themselves. So it's a workplace is the foundation. They're spending a lot of time there, and that's where we can support. And that's almost like my why, in a way. Why am I running a business? Is because I want to add value to people's lives, and I want to create something which is different and unique. And I think that's where mental health is kind of like my middle ground. It's like my pillar for what we do as a business. And I know that's very strange because we run digital ads. What's that got to do with mental health? But I feel like that's my personal value, and it just helps me to enjoy what we're doing. I think that little bit more.
Yeah. That sounds. The thing is, if you spend 40 hours a week around these people, you're
Yeah,
spending more time around these people than you are anyone else. And I think we are living in an anxious society, and I think this anxiety is kind of induced. So if you're going to be spending all this time with each other, if your success depends on each other being in good shape, then commercially even it just makes sense. So it doesn't sound like it's anti-business at all, but it does sound like it's an extra mile. It does sound like you're 100% right. If you're going to be happy and successful, it's more likely to happen in an environment where you're with people who are also happy and successful.
yeah,
It's contrary to what goes on in most businesses. Let's put it that way.
yeah. Honestly, like, and that's why I believe that staff churn starts happening. Like then recruitment now is harder than ever. Like probably the hardest I think it's been since we've been running our agency, because you've got inflationary costs, you've got people are getting ridiculous salary offers because the demand is up. So we've got to change our agency pricing, and there's so many different factors now to running an agency that basically determine where we end up. And an agency like ours could be gone in 12 months time if we don't evolve. And this is the scary thing about it. It's true. it's
Yeah, it is
it's very
true.
scary.
And that is the scary thing about running a business, I think, is that you're constantly having to evolve and you're constantly having to leap. Do you know what I mean? There's an opportunity,
Yeah,
and the opportunity might not be there for very long. And you can take a risk now and go for it, and it might be fine, but it's stressful whichever way you go. But that's constantly. Well, I described it yesterday. I spoke to someone who's a startup investment specialist yesterday. It was really interesting.
yeah,
Um, but it was like, for me, it was like doing the triple jump for like 9 years. It's like it's a hop and a skip and it's a jump and it better be another hop and do you know what I mean? It's like
yeah.
constantly, like your feet are barely on the ground. You've got to keep evolving. So tell me then, what do these ridiculous salaries look like?
We've just had one of our staff poached off us, and they had a 12 grand pay bump going to a new
Right,
place. I'm not going to go into details on what that is, but you know, that's someone which is on the more junior end
right.
going up. 12 grand, I think it's quite a lot of money in terms of a bump,
Yeah, it would have been
you
more
know.
useful if you'd given us a percentage, man.
We're talking like probably about 35% increase,
Right. Okay. So that is
I think, roughly.
unsustainable.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, it's crazy.
So
We
it's,
are living in crazy times.
all you've got to do is go onto a job board now and look for SEO manager or like, paid media manager. Like the costs have gone up. Like, inflation's gone up. The cost of living now in the UK, like I don't live in the UK, but like the cost of living in the UK, I've got a house there. It's the bills there are ridiculous. Like they're
Yes.
shooting up. So people need more money, and the demand's up. So we've gone through, and yeah, we've got to do the same. It's very difficult now. You kind of got building a good company culture, but then you've also got, you've got to keep sales coming in so that you can increase people's salaries and you can offer more in that sense as well.
Yes. But it feels like the market also needs more money, so they are looking for marketing support. Do you know what I mean? It's, um, yeah. The thing is, it's a race to the bottom, isn't it? If you get on this thing where you increase your prices, your customers, like everyone has to increase their prices. It's like, where do we draw a line, and where do we start saying, "Phil,
Yeah,
we don't want inflation anymore. We've got to start paying people less, charging less. We've got to start taking in less money." It's frightening, man. It's absolutely frightening. Okay, so good. Do you want the good news?
go on then, give me good news.
Sounds to me like you're qualified to be talking to us about running a digital marketing agency.
That's great news.
Great news. Well done. We've got there. So what I'm interested in now then is who do you work with and how do you add value to their lives? So it's ads, it's social ads, is it, or is it just digital ads?
Digital ads, yeah. Digital
Okay,
ads and content marketing.
right. So um, we should talk. Should we talk about Facebook? Are seeing their arse, aren't they? Or they're having their arse handed to them on a plate by
Yeah, it's
Apple.
pretty difficult. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think all over actually at the moment it's very difficult with digital ads, but it's about making sure everything's still relevant. So we actually work with some very interesting brands, and we're in the process at the moment of really defining who we are as a business as well, being 8 years in, and I'll explain a little bit more around that later on in this episode. But essentially, we are refining our offering down that digital ads route because it's basically the best skill we've got, and I think it's a bit more niched as an agency to kind of be servicing around digital ads. We work with brands across, lead gen, e-commerce, and we help them to creatively make their campaigns better, but also on a technical standpoint, really drive a lot more value and do things in a better practice. A lot of companies jump into Facebook, jump into Google, and start bidding and create ads that don't go alongside the best practices or don't think outside the box. That's where we're really adding that value. So we're kind of coming in and thinking about what can our creative marketing team over here do to support the tech team in terms of that delivering that ad in the most compelling way. Um, and I think that's really a general gist of how our marketing kind of approach works. But it's about creating something different and unique, and it's hard to do because it doesn't work for every brand. Like we've worked with some clients, and it's like flogging a dead horse sometimes. And they've got a product that actually you realise that people don't like, so then it doesn't work. And this
Right.
has been a reality because on the in the first discovery bit we think, oh, this is a great product, then it goes to market, doesn't work, and we're 3 months down the line, we're thinking, God, I think this is actually, you start looking into things, you start looking into things in a lot more detail, and you go, actually, I think this is the product. It's not, we can't really do too much with this product. And I think this is where actually as an agency we're trying to become more qualified in who we're working with. Like I said, this isn't this. I wanted this episode to be more about like the learnings as well. So some of our mess ups as well as the successes, because I think anyone that just talks about success is probably lying in that sense. So um, I think in terms of like where we kind of specialize, like digital ads is the is the forefront of what we do, and I think we add value through having a really creative approach to that and making sure that it really stands out.
Okay, so brands don't always want to be creative, is my experience. Like actually getting
Yeah,
something, like they think they want to be creative, but when you start putting creative options in front of them, they kind of have a cat and then decide they don't want to be very creative anymore. So
yeah,
that's one aspect to it. What's the other aspect to it? The other aspect to it is I've got a religious issue with advertising with social media platforms because I grew up, like I was running my business when it was like the glory days, where they would, all of the value was available for nothing really. No, I'll tell you
mm,
exactly what the situation was. It was creativity was king, so if essentially the space was free and you could take all of that money that you would spend on advertising, put it into your creative and come up with something really cool and funky. And that was so much better than now. What you have to do is give your money over to the platforms. So it's because
yeah,
I experienced that I don't like experiencing this now. But what sort of value? So you're running out on Spotify, for example. I've got no
yeah,
experience of that. TikTok?
yep. TikTok, Spotify, Amazon ads, they're all very different placements.
Yes.
It, it's not every placement is going to work for every brand. That's something really important to know.
Okay.
You know, Spotify is a really great way to do a brand awareness ad. Through we put this under the paid social type bracket. It's great for brand awareness. If you're thinking about TikTok, again, really good for brand awareness. You can be quite creative with that as well,
Yep.
and also the the actual demographics is rising in TikTok. So before it was really about like these younger demographics, and now what we're seeing is the demographics on TikTok are getting, the age ranges are going up. Yeah, I'm using TikTok. I'm using TikTok. Various other people that in the older demographic are starting to use TikTok. You um, one of my friends, their parents, they have Snapchat, and they all communicate through Snapchat. The parents are on Snapchat. It's very bizarre, but yeah, each platform's got its own little way of working, and you've got to really think about which one you want to use.
Okay. So that makes sense. So you can't repurpose content or ads across these different platforms. That doesn't work.
It really depends on the brand, because if you're talking about a fashion brand, like that's probably going to be quite relevant for Instagram,
Yep.
depending on the actual product itself, maybe even Facebook, and maybe even TikTok at the same time. But the creative will need to be changed because ultimately they work in different placement types. And this is actually where, like, we go back to where brands do it wrong, is they go down that route of actually taking the same creative without optimizing it based on the placement.
Right.
And that's an a way to make the ads lot more compelling, a lot stronger. You've got to fit them into that and get your relevancy scores up that way.
Okay. And how evolved are all of these different platforms? Like, obviously, Facebook is the most evolved. They've been doing this for like 14 years
Yeah,
already. So they know, so they used to know everything about their users. It could be very targeted. TikTok, much less time. Although TikTok, how long has TikTok been around for? It must be 6 or 7 years already. Was it
yeah,
2014?
yeah.
2015? So how evolved are they? And how like so clearly for me social advertising historically would have been about branding, it would have been about awareness kind of marketing, but what value can people take out of these different platforms other than just awareness?
Well, you know, for us, there's different objectives within a campaign. So if you're looking at Facebook, for example, you've got various different types. One of the things we're doing very effectively now is actually the collection of first party data. Um, so collecting data within the platform, because that then isn't affected by the likes of Apple, for example. So that's
Okay.
kind of bypassing this latest update. which we know has been hell. So every kind of campaign is going to have a different strategic objective, and it's about us understanding what that objective is and utilizing the right placement type and the right optimization strategy to help that client to win. So if it's revenue based, then yeah, we're going to put on a conversions campaign, and we're going to let the algorithms really work to achieve that objective. It's really now it's more about automation than ever. We really need to feed as much data into the pixels as we can to make them successful. Takes
Right.
time.
And do the algorithms deliver that value? Because I have a religious distrust of those algorithms. Wherever,
Yeah.
like whenever I've whatever, because I teach now. So when I tell people like this is how you put campaigns together, it's like wherever there's room for the platform to make a suggestion, you shut that down immediately. Is my instinct and my experience of when I was doing it regularly. I haven't been doing it regularly. So how effective are those algorithms? So you can literally say, Facebook, I want customers, go find me customers.
Yeah, so it's a bit harder now with the iOS stuff, and it depends on like I said, what objective you're using. So Facebook very much predicts a lot of the stuff it's doing. Um, However, if you're using like a lead generation method, we actually did something really, really clever with one of our clients. And we started taking the data through lead forms on Facebook. We then fed that into email lists, and then we started pushing out emails and nurturing people with the tag of Facebook ID, and then we could actually attribute all that revenue through emails. So these are new prospects, never heard of the brand before. They saw our ad, they gave us their email, and we're now making money through email marketing. That is like a really creative way to actually get past a lot of this algorithm problems that you're seeing.
Yes.
Um, that and if you're going to ask me that, then yeah, you can see the effectiveness off the back of an email because you can see how much revenue you've made or how many leads you've generated. Um, if we're talking about conversions, let's say we set a conversion campaign live. Now, Facebook has a different attribution model, so in it's always going to take an interaction. So if it's clicked on that ad and then someone has converted at some point during the journey, let's face it, Facebook will probably drive awareness. Later on, someone might go through Google, search for the brand name, spend half an hour looking at stuff on their site and convert. In Google, you're going to see organic as the conversion, but in Facebook, you're probably going to see that up in Facebook too. So it's very difficult depending on what attribution model you're using, really, um, to determine how successful that is. I think I look very holistically. So our reporting is always trying to figure out what's driving the value, what's driving the uplifts, and going from that really. But like I said, depends on the objective you're doing as a campaign. It really varies customer to customer. Sorry.
Yeah, and I
Does
can
that make
imagine
sense?
that it would have to.
Yeah.
And I only really understand about 40% of what you've just said.
Sorry.
So,
I
no, no,
should.
no, 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 it's fine because, I mean, I do understand what you're saying. So, and it's kind of the way it always was. It's like the way that is offered by the platform is very rarely the very best way to get the very best value. So you always have to jimmy it. Do you know what I mean? So what you're saying is working for you in some instances. It varies from customer to customer, brand to brand. But what you're saying is if you can collect email addresses, then actually we're all the way back to email marketing, which is where internet marketing started in like 1996, is the way that you're delivering good value for customers in the right instance.
One of the
Uh,
ways, yeah.
One of the ways, yeah. It
One of the
feels to
many.
me, it feels to me like customers can't. I mean, it's always felt this way to me. It feels to me like I did a chat with a PPC advertiser agency recently, and he said to me, if you're going to be dancing with Google, you need to be really cute. Do you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
they really want all of your money. And they don't really care about how much value you take. So it's always felt to me like that. Like you have to be really cute. If I had this marketing strategy thing going back all the way like to 2005 when I started my business. So I'm saying, like, basically the whole world is after your marketing budget. So if you don't know
Yeah.
exactly where you're going, exactly how you're going to get there, then people will take your marketing budget from you and leave you crying in the gutter. They don't care. But now it is Google and it is Facebook and it is YouTube and it is TikTok and it's these big corporations and they are very good at taking your money. So it feels to me almost like an end user doesn't stand a chance against these
Yeah.
corporations.
I think if you are unqualified and you jump into Facebook and you start putting in big budget, you're probably going to waste a lot of money. Um,
Yes.
we always start, if it's a new client, new campaign, we'll always start budgets relatively small, and we'll look to kind of do a proof of concept before kind of scaling that and wasting a lot of money, because there's so many different types of tactics that will work for one business and not another. So, like I
Yes.
said, with that fashion brand, worked amazingly. Like collecting those emails and really funneling them through like email marketing, amazing tactic, and you can actually see the revenue off the back of that. But maybe for another brand that's not going to work so well, B2B brand on Facebook trying to collect leads, probably not going to work.
Yes.
But do that through LinkedIn. Like we're smashing it on LinkedIn, like lead forms, like it's all kept within the platform. Like you're not even having to send people to your site. You're getting a lead through the platform through a piece of compelling content that you've put out there, and they've gone, "Hey, I'm interested in that." Actually, boom,
Yes.
email.
Okay. Good. I did some advertising on LinkedIn. They charged me £17 for a click. They reckon that there were 15 or 20 clicks turned up, and there were 15 or 20 clicks they charged me for. And the result was that two of these clicks turned up on my website and they were both gone in less than 2 seconds.
Yeah, that's
So
awkward.
it is awkward. You can't phone them up and say, "Oh, this didn't quite work out. Like, I'm not sure why this didn't work out." It's like, so this is. I don't like corporations anyway, but this is my experience. You have to be incredibly cute if you're going to be spending money with these organisations, because at the end of the day, there's no one you can phone up and say, "Like, I didn't quite get value." Do you know what I mean? They are. I have
Yeah.
issues with these corporations. I have big issues with these corporations. What did I want to say? I wanted to say, if you're happy to tell me, how do you charge? Because this is another issue I've got with these corporations.
So we charge like a monthly management fee.
Right.
So the media spend will go directly into like whatever social platform it is or Google, what have you.
Yeah.
And then we'll charge a management depending on how much that is. We obviously have minimums in place because one of the things as well is you've kind of sometimes got to spend enough to make enough. So if you're
Yes.
not spending enough, you're not even going to be a fit with our agency because you're not going to make it past the management fee to actually
Right.
make it profitable for yourself.
Yes.
So we're talking about mid to large brands that can crush it on social, crush it on Google, like with our management fee structure,
Yes.
um, and we'll make it successful because we know how to pull the right strings. And we've also going back to what you said about like, if you're just sitting there as a small business on the back of this, like you've just been charged for 17 clicks at £17, whatever it is, that's a lot of money to you. For us, we've kind of got like a back end account manager in a lot of these platforms.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of place that where we'd bring that up. Whereas,
Yes.
a lot of time with a small business, you haven't got that leverage. And I think that's why it's quite good being an agency because we're running multiple ad platforms and different ad accounts. So it's we've got a bit more to play with. We're feeding these companies money
Yes.
um, and getting results. I'd say like we wouldn't be here 8 years in if we weren't getting results. And we smash it with paid social and Google ads. Like sometimes like I think the campaign that we ran, which was 2021 best digital campaign, that used a range of these different tactics, and it achieved a 14 or 15 to 1 return on investment for the client. Like we absolutely killed it through their marketing, and
Fantastic.
like that's numbers that are just astronomical. If you're a business and you're coming to work with us, like if you get that, and that's not to say that, you know, we don't do that on every single campaign that we work on. I think that would be near enough impossible. But, you know, if you're getting a 4 to 8 ROAS and your margins are good, then, you know, go for it. I think it's a great place to be.
Yes. Is it suitable for every business? Does it matter what kind of business comes to you? You're always going to have some experience and some idea of how to make it effective for them, or are there styles of businesses where, like you've obviously said, fashion
Yeah,
really
it's work.
works? You know, you've yeah,
Yeah, but then fast fashion, for example, you've got to be spending a lot because the margins are so low. So if you've got like, we work with some, you know, decent margin brands, you know, they're working on like 60, 70% margin.
yeah,
And, you know, you can afford a larger cost per acquisition on that customer because you're looking at bigger revenue figures. If you're looking at fast fashion, average orders of £40 and margins are like tiny, you've got to be scaling that big time
yes,
to make that profitable. And that is a challenge, like to do that. Um, so yeah, like there are some customers we would not go near because we just think, well, actually, from a value proposition, like we're not going to be valuable to you based on the size of our retainers and how much you're actually looking to spend and where you want to take it. Like we'd choose to kind of not work with that customer. And actually, like talking about failures as well, we've brought on customers before where, you know, we thought we could make it work and it wouldn't work because
yes,
of those reasons, you know. So it's about making sure you're bringing on the right ones that understand, yeah, where you can take them if they can get into that investment stage. Um,
yeah,
it's
100%.
a very tricky business. It's a tricky business to work in because it's one campaign is different to the other. You're talking about different looking brands, and they can all operate differently depending on their
Yes,
values and property.
100%. And I think that's why it took me a long time to realize like 60 or 70% of your success is dictated by picking the right client in the first instance. It's like,
Yeah,
it's huge because originally I was taking everything that was thrown at me. There was a lot thrown at me. It was absolute torture. Like, apart from anything else, some people are just assholes that you don't want to work with. Do you know what I mean? So you've got to be thinking, if it goes badly, can I have a conversation with this person about what's happened and why it's happened and how we address it or not? Do you know what I mean? So I think
yeah.
that's huge. I think that's huge. You've got that right, definitely.
I had to
Um,
fire a client last year.
did you?
That very rarely happens. Uh, but you know, this client, I'm obviously not going to go into the details, but this client specifically was actually being very nasty to my team.
Yes.
And again, going back to happiness and leadership, like I spoke to the team and we decided we didn't want to work with this client anymore, and we've seized all projects. It just
Good.
wasn't a good fit.
Yeah, I think you have to be prepared to do that. And there's something about actually when you are doing that, then customers actually respect that. The right customers respect that. Do you know what I mean? They respect that they are being qualified and they appreciate that you are prepared to invest your time and energy because that's what you're doing essentially. Is you're investing your time and energy in return for some of their money, but everyone needs it to be successful. You need it to be successful. They need it to be successful. So that's right. Okay, good. How do you feel about Gary Vaynerchuk?
To be honest with you, I like the guy. I know some people don't because maybe he's got too positive and what have you. And I think he's actually been a good leader in my own vision with my company.
Okay.
Um, a lot about like love and loving and caring for people and actually just being
Yeah.
positive. And I really I dig it. I think it's great.
Okay. Good.
Um, One of the many influencer type people that I like listening to, Stephen Bartlett again, another one. He's really inspired me to start a podcast. And really get that out. So it's Gary V's cool. I enjoy his stuff. I can see like I understand you probably asked me that because he's quite controversial, isn't he? Like,
Yeah. Well, I'm just about to do a reaction to one of his videos. He put out a thing 35 minutes of marketing strategy that you can implement in your business straight away. And then
Yeah.
I kind of started watching it. As far as I can tell, the only recommendation he makes that you could implement in your business straight away is to spend $6,000 a month with LinkedIn. And he says this will give you a really good sense of what that can do. So I don't, my experience of that is that's, say goodbye to that $6,000 is my experience. In your hands, that might be really useful for somebody. But it's just that kind of gung ho. I think his success is like because everybody knows him. He's had like 200 million views or something on YouTube. Do you know what I mean? So he is an example of like that huge awareness. People want to work with him because he's famous. Do you know what I mean? And I hope he's got guys around him who can really deliver value. But I don't know. But it just seems to me like that recommendation, that one, give LinkedIn $6,000 every month, just kind of.
It's a funny one because I think, like, we could pick that one example out. I've not actually watched that video, to be honest, but there's also a lot of other good things that he kind of talks about. So I think it depends who's listening. Like, it's not going to be valuable for everyone,
No.
And it's kind of like what we said about the platforms. Not every platform's going to be a good fit. Like, you might just have the complete opposite personality type. You just don't agree with Gary Vee, and that's cool. And for some people, they might find the inspiration, and that's going to take them to another level.
Yes.
That's going to allow them to perform better because they're thinking differently. I think this is more a mindset thing for me.
Yes. And so he is all about mindset. I mean, he is kind of fuck it, do it kind of mindset.
Yeah.
I suppose it's fine. But I also think it's the worst thing about marketing because, like, we're having this conversation. Like, so if it's marketing strategy, it's deciding who you want to sell to, developing the product that meets them, identifying the platforms, identifying the messages, identifying the creative, working out the offers. Like, that for me is strategy. Chucking $6,000 a month at LinkedIn, that's a tactic. And if all that strategy isn't done, you can say goodbye to that $6,000 a month, I think. And that's all I think. Anyway, I'm going to react to this video. It gives me a bit of a headache to talk too fast.
My question on that is, what are you spending $6,000 a month on?
Ads.
To who?
LinkedIn.
And why?
Doesn't matter.
Just straight up spend $6,000 a month on ads.
I don't know how many people were there. He said, spend $6,000 a month on LinkedIn ads.
I mean,
and then he said that will give you a real flavor of what LinkedIn can achieve. And it's like, please, that for me is everything that's wrong with marketing. But like, that's when you turn up for a client and they're expecting you to say, this thing, your product is amazing, and do this one thing and you'll be hugely successful. It's not that. It's like, do all the work, and it will be better. I think that's for me is what marketing strategy is. That's the value of a marketing person.
I mean, I totally agree with you. I don't agree that like you can just spend $6,000 on a platform. It's going to make you successful because, like I said, you've got to think about the who, the whys, what's the purpose of the brand, all this stuff. Like, it's so different. Like, there's a lot of thought and strategy that goes into spending money, and
really?
$6,000 for a big company, nothing. But $6,000 for a small company is a lot. So
yes. But the thing is, $6,000 is like a person and a half. I could get hugely more value out of a person and a half than I could do you know what I mean? An ad in LinkedIn. Anyway, let's not get sidetracked by that. So, question number 3. Are we on question number 3? What's your recommendation for like two things? People who want to do better in their digital marketing agency, or people who want to get more from their digital marketing agency. So you get 6 questions today because you're special.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, thank you for the fact I'm very special.
I just saw it, man.
Anyway, so I think this kind of comes down to a couple of fundamental things. So one of the things we've done really bad along the way is we've not, and we're still working it out, by the way. I'm not saying it's perfect. We haven't figured out who we are completely and who it is we want to work with. So understanding like the fact, we used to be a full service agency. We used to do websites. We used to do all of this crap that actually, like in the grand scheme of things, wasn't our specialism. So if you want to get more out of your agency, really start to think about what you're really, really good at and actually focus in on that, because I believe that, that cuts a lot of your problems in half. If you've got, let's just say, for example, you've got a team of 10 people, and you offer SEO, all of these different services, how can you ever be completely amazing at every single one of those services? There's
Yes.
so many different skill sets you've got to offer. So how can you do that and be the best? So my opinion on this is actually find a little pocket that you work really well in, and really drive down that route, um, and hire people like that are experienced in that route to deliver success as well. Like, I just believe that if you can niche into something, then you're going to find more success in that. We rank number one in the UK for paid social agency, and we get a lot of leads coming through from that. And actually, like, we're starting to gear everything around the site to be more digital ads focused, and
Yes.
that's working. So it's or like we hardly got any leads. Right? We're ranking for lots of different terms, but like we're actually getting consistent leads now, which is because we're standing out a little bit more. But we are so far off where we need to be. I just want to point that out because it's a continuous improvement.
Yeah. It's an
We're
evolution. It's a
actually going to
journey.
be redeveloping a lot of things in the coming weeks. So
Yes. Okay. Cool. So I
that's
think
it.
that's. I think
And
that.
and
Yeah.
I was going to say the other thing actually aside of that is finding your niche, but also focusing on the people. Like I said, like it's a very common trend. Focus on creating happy people in your team, and that's going to be like a huge win for you if you can do the two.
Yes. 100%. And if you're a client and you're using a marketing agency and you want to get more value out of the marketing agency, what is your recommendation for those people?
Well, I think it's about understanding the details. It's really like a lot of agencies just stuff things with fluffy figures, and understanding the the hard metrics on success, I think, is really important. Like, and understanding what success looks like for you. Success for some clients might be, like, I've got one that we're working with at the moment, it's driving more community. Like, another one which is driving revenue, another one which is driving leads, another one which is brand awareness. And it's what is that measurement of success, and how are your agency performing against that? I always think it's good to benchmark, go and have a look at other options as well, um, and find someone that's really specialist in what you do. I think that's probably a really key decision is finding the best person that can deliver that service for you.
Yeah. You know, the
Under the
average,
hood, yeah.
yeah, I don't know if this is still correct, but the average life expectancy or the average life of relationship with a digital marketing agency is now 3 months in London. Have you heard this?
I mean, that's crazy, to think that. I think, like, if I go and look at our average client that we've had on, we've got some clients that have been there for 7.5 years. Um, and they're the smaller, the ones, the legacy clients. But even now, like, I think it's results. Like, if you can get the results, you can retain more for more than 3 months for sure. But I also think I was actually having this discussion the other day, with someone that I'm going to recommend to come on the show. And one of the problems in the UK, especially, is there's 25 to 30,000 agencies. You've got one man bands, you've got agencies of 10, you've got agencies of 100, blah, blah, blah. In terms of, like, actually people that are really experienced in doing some of these services, you're going to come into people that aren't as experienced, in that process, and they're not going to get the results that you want, and the expectations are not going to be set. So I can understand that, 3 months. I think that's crazy, like the average, because I've not got that experience. Um, But for me, it kind of makes me feel like a lot of people are setting unrealistic expectations, if that's the case.
Yeah, well, I think clients have unrealistic expectations, and then I think a lot of agencies are just bullshitters, like we spoke about SEO.
Yeah,
So the client has an unrealistic expectation, the agency accepts that expectation, tells them everything's going to be rosy. 3 months, it's obvious that it's not. The thing
yeah.
is, you can't even deliver any success, I don't think, in 3 months. You've got to be there for 6 months at least, or 12 months, to even start to see the value. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, you don't
On
understand a client.
SEO, definitely.
Yeah,
Performance marketing is a different game. Like, if I can't produce results in 3 months, yeah, you may as well go, because like we can actually go through and produce results like pretty quickly. I turned on a campaign for a client once, and within the first day, we started hitting ROAS like 4, 5, 6. So
right.
it's really depends on, like I said, on the client itself. But
Yes,
there is that learning phase, and 3 months of performance marketing is like that is a good gauge to see if you're with the right agency.
right.
So it kind of makes sense.
Okay. But SEO, nothing. Nothing happens in 3 months.
SEO long term.
Yeah.
No, no, no.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
definitely. I mean, you can actually, going back onto SEO, I do think you can make good wins. Like you can make quick wins, for example. Like we've just started optimizing some of our schema on our pages across our services. That's gonna We're already ranking in those positions for like the top page, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Now, introducing a schema, which is like data structure, it allows you to pull in reviews, all this kind of stuff. That's going to help our click through rate straight away.
Yes.
So straight away, we're going to have that positive impact off the back of that if we're already in those top slots.
Yes.
So that's a quick win. But getting to page one on X ranking in 3 months is hard, right?
It's really hard. And the thing is, this is why I like, but there's quick wins. You can tidy up your meta descriptions. Do you know what I mean? You can put some click here's in the
Yeah.
text and stuff. That will be like quick wins. I don't think a lot of SEO agencies do that. They just say, look, you couldn't possibly understand this. It's too complicated. But we're definitely doing it, and it will be fine
Mm,
in 6 or 9 months or 12 months, and then it's not necessarily. It's really interesting. I think what I realised is that being in the marketing business is more difficult because you are dealing with people's hopes and dreams. Do you know what I mean? That's what you trade in all day, every day. And
yeah.
if you're working with a decent sized business, then the expectations are typically much more realistic. Like the goals have been established and maybe even achieved previously. Whereas if you're taking on small businesses and everything depends on this being 100% successful, then it's just more pressure, I think.
Yeah. It's
Cool.
very true.
We've been talking already for an hour and 18 minutes, and I've consumed 1 minute over the time that you committed to. So we need to wrap up, if that's cool.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah.
Excellent. There's only 2 questions remaining.
Yeah.
What should people? I realise I'm speaking to a young person, so it doesn't have to be books. I know you have read a few books. It doesn't have to be books. Like, what should people consume? There's a podcast called The Daily Hustle, Daley Hustle on Spotify. Maybe people should go and check that out.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's our podcast, and actually, that's got the person that I'm going to recommend on the podcast as well.
Okay, cool.
So the person I'm in terms of like that you should go and kind of read. He's just brought a new book out, and it's called Stand Out or Die, and it's Gareth Healy, and he's my mentor. And this book is really interesting. I think you're going to gain a lot of value out of, taking your agency. What you realize is you're probably fitting in a standstill category. You're probably in that standstill category and you're not standing out enough, which is why you're having a lot of these problems. So that book for me was like, wow, that was an amazing read. But he's obviously my mentor as well, so he helps
Okay,
out
and
a
what
lot.
was his name?
His name's Gareth Healy.
Gareth Healy. Okay, cool. Excellent. Okay, and are you going to introduce me to Gareth Healy so that I can have a conversation with him?
First of all, yeah, he's my first recommendation. I'm throwing him under the bus, as you'd
Excellent.
say.
Good. Who else are you going to throw under the bus?
We've got one of my really good contacts in Manchester. He's called Josh Bolland. He runs JB Cole. And I was out having a beer with him the other day, and I said, "Hey, do you want to go on the podcast? I think it's going to be really interesting." So he's also been on our podcast, so you can check out the video that we did, because we did like a high end video with him on YouTube, the Daily
Excellent.
Hustle. So yeah, those are my two people. I think
Cool.
they'll be really good, interesting people to have on the show.
Fantastic. I'm excited about that. So it was Josh Bolt, like Usain Bolt,
Josh Bolland.
Bolland, like Holland with a
Yeah.
B.
Yeah. And he also runs a business with his brother.
Oh, okay. So that's interesting. Oh, so that was your episode about being brothers in
Yeah.
business. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
All right, excellent. Man, I have thoroughly, thoroughly, thoroughly enjoyed this. Thank you so much for your time. I know it's a bit
Yeah.
fuzzy in parts, but in other parts, I think the video is okay. So, I will review
Yeah.
that. And these are the vagaries of doing this kind of thing. I think what we're talking about is the most important. And if people are listening, if they're looking at our faces, God help them for an hour and 15 minutes or an hour and 20 minutes. God help them. But if they want to hear, the hearing is, the value is in the hearing, I would say. Cool. So, is
I
there
hope
anything
you.
you haven't said that you would have liked to have said?
Right now, I think it's just been a really interesting, like chilled out conversation. So it's been nice. I think the main things for me is just covering the real values behind why I do what I do, and I think that should maybe help out some of the listeners. So
That's cool. Is there anything
great.
you've said that you shouldn't have said?
Oof, no, I don't think so. I
That's
think
fine.
I've been pretty cool on this one. Like I've not dropped anyone under a bus too much. So
Okay, cool. Excellent. So, what we'll do is we will say goodbye now for anyone who's listening to this and watching this. So, and then what we'll do is I'll stop recording. We'll say goodbye like normal human beings. So, man, thank you
yeah,
so much for committing your time today. It's been a really useful, interesting conversation.
thank you so much, and yeah, I look forward to catching up again soon.
Wicked. You're an absolute legend. Thanks, man.